There we go. Good morning. It is Monday, August 26th. We are here to see what the ancestors have in store for us. Last week, we had this card, the King, where we were invited to powerfully lead our mission. Anybody have this one show up for them last week, or any comments on how this might have guided their work?
I can speak to that.
All right.
Why I say this is because there's something powerful I hadn't done previously, and I don't know why. And last week was one of the weeks where I was able to identify, I don't know if it's a gap, but the thing is I was able to define what my values and my standards are as a person, and
Mm-hmm.
just being conscious of the fact that these are my standards, right? And anytime like there's ever a situation where because I'm the kind of person that just goes with the flow. So now that I know my standards and values, I'm able to just communicate it without having to think too much or second guess myself. So that was how it showed up because it made me bold, knowing that this is what I stand for and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
love that. Can you give me an example of that one of those standards or values?
yeah, so I'm trying to maintain being honest, and I'm trying to be honest and transparent in everything I do. And
Mm-hmm.
just being able to communicate in that manner was something that was always important to me. But there are times where I just let it slide under the rug. And this time
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to say, let's have an honest conversation
Yes.
without having to bury anything. And it's been very, very healthy to me. It's been very,
Yeah. I love that. I think a lot of people feel nervous about doing that because it might cause some tension or feel uncomfortable. And yet, like, if you really approach it with, we're partners and problem solving together, like, you can get through it together. And sometimes it makes things stronger
it
moving
actually,
through that together.
it,
I love it. Thanks, Ty.
well,
Anyone else have the king show up?
Can you remind me of some of the attributes of the king?
Well, he's hiding in here now. Come out, come out. Regal, powerful, passionate, courageous, sovereign, responsible, benevolent, creative, innovative, decisive, direct, inspiring, visionary, respected.
Mm, mm. While I couldn't give you a specific instance of how those or where those showed up, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I embodied most, if not all of those in my movement last week. And while I wasn't
Uh-huh.
feeling my best, I feel like what I put my focus and energy into got
Mm-hmm.
the very best parts of me, if you will.
I love it.
And I think too, and maybe that's not said, but comes along with quote unquote the territory, that sometimes you may have the title, but don't always move with certainty, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's some uh not necessarily timidness, but like the kind of practice makes better, you do it
Mm-hmm.
over and over in a way that begins to feel like second nature. But until it's second nature, there's some acclimation and clunkiness maybe that exists,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's while that exists for me, I think more times than not, there's still those periods where it's like, is that the best move? Is that the most strategic? Is that, so yeah, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
feeling my way through that because it's not a one approach fits all scenario too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Hold on.
definitely have or have had a instinctive repulsion against monarchy because of all the baggage of colonialism and all that kind of stuff. So the idea of like, ugh, how do I wear that? And
Yeah.
thinking, oh well, like how can I make it a both and instead of an either or? Like what is there in there to learn about leadership without, the whole thing is corrupt and horrible and yucky. So yeah, I leaned into the the lion lounging in the sun. I was like, yeah, I could get behind that.
There you
I
go.
could lounge in the sun. I
Can,
don't
can I
have to be a dictator.
can I slightly hijack or interject into the conversation? Because what you just said
Absolutely.
reminds me of a constant experience I have, and I'm with you. Like I'm here and on your board because I cherish the kind of decision-making process that that is part of Swell's mission to promulgate. And yet, all throughout my life, I have found myself in social situations, academic situations, employment situations, wherever, where groups of people are sort of not they're not prepared to make a decision, and they look to someone that they feel like might make a good decision to just make it.
Hmm.
And then they want to
Yeah.
execute, and it's not really a
Uh-huh.
power over, because at least when it happens to me, I'm especially in more recent years and much more cognizant of the dynamics from working with you all. I'm always checking in. Do you really want to see this? Do you really want me to make this decision? You know, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But humans do that.
Yeah.
They look for benevolent philosopher leadership, I
Hmm.
guess. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay to step into that role because it helps people.
Yeah.
It's not what we're trying to make happen, but it isn't. In some instances, I don't think it's the wrong thing either.
Right. Yeah. And like when the house is on fire, it takes a little different kind of leadership to get everybody safely out, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Although I'm talking about like
Yeah.
the simplest things where you've got six people and
Um,
someone's like, "Where are we going to dinner?"
what's for
And
lunch? Yeah.
yeah, and no one will, and you can't facilitate an answer, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you always pick a good restaurant, you do that.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
that power is willingly ceded
Yep.
explicitly by the people. It's not taken from them.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's important. I see you, Nina. What you got?
Just piggybacking off of what Pat said, and it's almost like a kudos to probably why you find yourself in that situation, Pat, is I think like we also instinctually know that someone sometimes has to make decisions, and the world would be better if more situations were like the ones that you might be finding yourself in, right? Where people are trusting you for good reason, or anyone here, if anyone here finds himself in a leadership position, it's not that we can't be the king sometimes. In fact, I like that
Hmm.
that's why I think it's cool that the card has both sides, because it's saying be a king this week, act that way, just be mindful of the shadow self, and as long as you're not doing
Hmm.
that, the bright side of the card is perfectly reasonable, right? We do need king leadership. We need every card in that deck, and every card has its moment, except you just want to avoid going too extreme to where, like Pat's kind of saying, you don't get the buy-in. But once you have people's
Hmm.
buy-in, once you have people's buy-in, I think it's great where you have natural trusted leaders. It's just about being the kind of leader that's willing to say what some people aren't, which is,
Hmm.
are we sure we're okay with me being the leader and
Yeah.
checking
Yeah. Yeah.
a while? But it's kind of nice because there's been this resurgence, I think, and then I'll step back, but there's been a resurgence lately of like natural roles and like people in their natural roles. And it's like, sure, it's okay to like focus on nature in some respect, but it's just that
Mm.
you can't get too obsessed with it to where you're not checking if anybody else wants to step into that role, or if someone's not a
Hmm.
natural king, that you help them find their wisdom and ability to share. So,
Yeah.
it's a clap for probably everyone here who's like a really great king in some moments,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, deciding where we go to lunch when we need to, because time is of the essence and we don't have a whole lot, is not the same as, and you all are paying for my lunch. Or right,
Right.
like, where does, knowing that it's not a carte blanche for every decision, here on out, sometimes you step into it and know when to step back.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do one more shuffle since I kind of peeked and see what we get. Oh, well, I'm going to Santa Barbara to represent Swell. I am the messenger.
The messenger.
At least that's what comes to me straight away because what I got up. But what about y'all, the messenger? We bring the light of awareness. We are perceptive, progressive, intelligent, adaptable, changeable, psychic, versatile, candid, agile, communicative, insightful, imaginative, curious, and instinctive. Anyone hoping this is going to guide their work this week? I see a way where it can.
Definitely me. Yeah. I think this to me is saying like be gently in touch with that intuition that you have and don't be afraid to share those insights, you know. Speak from the heart so long as it avoids whatever I'm sure the shadow self is, but this feels encouraging me to share any message I feel like I'm seeing this week without hesitation, as long as it's kind and I'm communicative, you know. Love that card. That's nice. That's a nice one.
Yep.
Are you looking for the shadow on the messenger?
Scattered,
Yeah.
selfish, fickle, uncommitted, and confused.
Oh, interesting.
Sorry, it's making me laugh because it's like, what if someone were, here were just like, I'm sorry, you seem confused. It just makes me laugh.
I think I can say with confidence that what I aim to move this week and how I aim to engage while doing it, mindful of the shadow aspects, and feel confident that I will remain mindful of them, but will not step into any of them. And the attributes of the messenger that stood out to me were the agility and intuitiveness. But my being a Capricorn and the way that I find comfort in setting myself up to move in any direction often is part of like the piece that I feel around that, right? Like being sure about this is my first move, second move, so on and so forth, if you will. I'm super open to the intuition aspect and feeling my way through it, like how I was talking about, at the top of the call with our King card. Sometimes even though I have it, kind of itemized in terms of how I'm going to tackle it, that's not always the path, kind of thing. So having a rough outline of maybe how I want to move in relation to what ends up being the final movements is good for my knowingness, but also the comfort in that I can be movable, or flexible. Yeah. Interesting.
Anyone else? Ideas about how it's going to show up this week?
Bring the light of awareness. So for me, it's really just always putting it at the back of your mind, because ever since I got the concept of just being a positive person to be around, or just anything I speak, I just want it to be from a positive source. And I see this card connecting in such a way that even if I were to interact with anyone, I always just want to be able to speak positively out of any situation, regardless of how it may look or seem. And I know we've pulled this card before, and I try to stem out of it, and there have been times where it kind of feels selfish because, I try not to acknowledge, and I don't know if this is good practice, but even though I see the obvious, like everything looks bad, everything looks broken, I try not to acknowledge it, and I just try to always selfishly say that that's not the way to look at it. Let's just try to let's try to think about it. And sometimes it comes up selfish, but for me, it's really just a mindset to maintain, regardless of how the situation may dress itself, regardless of how I just try to speak positively into the situation. That's how.
There's being curious is a part of this too. So maybe that's kind of like, well, it looks broken on its surface, but maybe if I'm curious about what's under there or what else is there, that's where I'll find the light.
That's right.
Well, shall we go out and be messengers this week?
I'm going to ask I want to ask Mika to be a messenger right now and remind me why I said I was going to jump on this call, other than that I'm free. There was some reason we're like, oh, I can jump on that call with you. I've got the materials from Valerie and Stephanie, so I will review them this afternoon. But wasn't there some reason why we were going to touch bases this morning?
Because we like you.
I thought
It's a message from the past.
I honestly thought it was maybe for the benefit of seeing, you know, Emily and Nina, who was unable to join us on Friday, and just
Definitely a benefit.
do a quick check-in. Yeah, make sure everybody's
Okay.
feeling well. Yeah. I don't know
Sounds
if there was
good.
anything else, but beyond that, but again, it's my brain you're asking, so you know.
Which we
So I need
have
to
we
be
heard of it
radioing
now?
Hawaii. Radio Hawaii.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Maybe the right move is to put your body on a plane to Hawaii.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. So
Would
you can
not be
go pick up
opposed.
the brain.
For
Uh-huh.
sure,
Mhm.
for sure.
All right,
everyone.
everyone. Have a great week.
Yes,
the
take
Slack
care.